Women are the source of all life. And in this special video for Women's Month, we brought together 4 female entrepreneurs who are going to share their stories of how they're rising to the ranks in business. So whether you're looking to do business with a spouse or work with women in the workplace, this is a video for you to get some insight into what motivates them, the struggles they face, and how that translates into their work and passions.
As a woman, we also have the ability to connect a lot with our emotions, to connect a lot with other human beings. Our emotional intelligence is really high, and this is a strength as a woman. So whether it be a woman being in the corporate space, a woman growing a business, a woman leading a team, being able to connect with your emotional intelligence is key for you to be able to work with other people in relationships, in deals, and knowing how to work with people. And using this is really important for all women and for all human beings, period. But a lot of the times what happens is that although we have this beautiful strength, we start having doubts, we start having fears, and a lot of the times we can lose our confidence. So to help you tune into that confidence, here are some steps that you can take for you to grow your mindset. There is this model that I use with my coaching clients. That's the be, do, have. So a lot of the times we think it's the other way. We think we need to have something in order for us to be able to do this one thing, and then we'll be the successful person. But really, it's the opposite. You need to tune into being this person first. What is this person thinking? What is this person feeling? What is this person embracing? And as a result, you're going to do the things that that person does. And as a result, you're going to have the things that that person has. So the be, do, have model is really important for us to be able to tune into as women. Who do we have to be in order for us to accomplish our goals? We need to be this like strong, powerful woman that goes into spaces and is confident about what she's doing and is being pulled by her vision. Then tune into that energy. Allow yourself to tune into that energy so that as a result, you can do the things and then have what it is that you want to have. I really want to open up this space for the women that are here and just know, like, have you guys experienced anything similar? Or maybe you've been wanting to go ahead and do something, but maybe your doubts come in, or like you don't feel like you're confident enough in a moment. And how have you guys overcame that?
I can speak on my experience. So a few months ago, I was kind of debating if I wanted to do an in-person event and set up a booth for my brand at a market. And so I think when I would look back on experiences of either presenting or like kind of being that front facing, like embodying my brand, it made me nervous and it made me feel like, ooh, I don't know, I haven't done it that well in the past. So am I not cut out for that type of experience? And so I think just pushing myself outside of that and letting myself be and not really holding myself to expectations and not letting like the past experiences define me, that was helpful for me to like get past that initial doubt, and I ended up having a really good time.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect example of courage. You know, like courage is really when you know that there's a risk, but you go for it anyway because you're willing to live out the reward. You know, and then especially in entrepreneurship, like it's a risk. Like you have to take a lot of risks for your growth. You have to take a lot of risks for your business in order to grow. Like growth requires a lot of risk, you know? And a lot of the times, especially if we haven't done something, then we think like of all the possible things that can go wrong, right? But having that courage to take that risk and go for it, and then living out the reward provides more proof for your brain of how you are capable instead of how you're not capable. So the more that you constantly are doing things that you're scared of, the more you gain confidence in it. And confidence is really one of the main things that I work, at least with my clients, which is confidence is not something to be obtained. It's a daily practice. You practice your confidence every day by going out and doing those things. But the person that you're being as you're doing those things is so essential, because if you're doing it like super scared and super timid and not really bringing your full self to it, then you know you have chances of proving to yourself that you're not capable. When if you tune into like, right now I'm going to be this confident person, I'm going to allow myself to tune into this, you go ahead and you do that thing and you're like, ooh, I was able to do that before, I can do it again. And then you start practicing this confidence, then you start embracing it and you move forward. And in business, that's super essential for anybody, whether it be a man and a woman. But I think at least as a woman, you know, the fact that we can connect with other human beings on a deeper level, and the fact that we are able to connect with our thoughts and our emotions on so much depth, I think is a strength, because we allow ourselves to connect with ourselves in that way, we can connect with others in that way, and we provide that safety for other people, which is really important in business, you know? So those are some tips of, and a great, beautiful example that Amanda has done and that has grown from when it comes to mindset, overcoming those blocks, and really using that to move forward in business and life.
Yeah, I was going to agree that it really is a practice, because after that experience, it almost like erased like other experiences that I had that maybe I felt uncomfortable in. And so after that, I was like, oh, I have to truly take advantage of this feeling of feeling like, wow, I did it. I had a great time. Like, I really connected with people. Let me make that the more memorable experience. And then from there, I just booked my next market, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do the next one. And now I don't really think about like these events as something to be nervous about, but something I'm going to enjoy and like have fun in.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And you've grown from that. And now you're going to grow into the next challenge. And then you're going to find ways to overcome that. And then you're going to grow into the next challenge. And as a result, you're growing and your business is growing too at the same time, which is why personal development is so essential for business, because we are the ones that are really moving it forward, you know? And then once we start getting teams, we are the ones that are leading those teams. And as we develop, we give space for other people to develop, and we give space for our business to develop, and we give space for our life to develop. So that's why mindset and being able to work on those things, although it's scary, is so important for anybody, man, woman. But like I said, as women, we have a lot of strength, and it's just learning to tap into that strength when maybe our surroundings aren't always so helpful for us and showing us that we're strong. We have to give ourselves that space to really tune into that, so that we can kind of break through those barriers and then keep on growing. Although we do have a lot that can, you know, kind of hold us down as women, we have so much power. So just know we have so much power. You can tune into it. Remember the be, do, have model, and then give yourself the time to really think like, what is stopping me? How can I overcome this? What action can I take to overcome it? For example, Amanda, she was like, I want to go to this market and be this beautiful leader, confident woman, right? And she practiced that by doing something, which is going to the market, being that person, doing that, and then now moving forward. So those are some tips that you can use for business, for your personal life, and I hope they're helpful. So as women, we also have this beautiful ability to create. We can create businesses, ideas. We can also create life. And Amanda has a beautiful daughter, now has a second baby on the way, and growing her family while also growing her business is something that requires a lot of strength, something that she's doing, and that a lot of women are also facing. So to talk a little bit more about what it's like being a mother and also being an entrepreneur at the same time, we have Amanda. So what is it like being a mother that is growing a family and also a person that is growing a business at the same time?
I think it's very challenging. I would say it's probably been the hardest part of my life. It has been showing up as these two people and trying to find balance with that and trying to make it work. It's been really hard, but I think as my daughter's 2 now, and I've learned so much along the way. And I think now that I look back, I feel like I'm in a good place. And I think a lot of people do talk to it. They talk about it as being a balance. And I feel like even in this moment where I feel like I have a hang of things, I don't feel overwhelmed, I still don't feel it like it's balanced. And I heard a quote from somebody, or I heard something on a podcast, and it really resonated with me, where they said that it's less of a balance and more of a juggle. So for me, I feel like that's so true, because I don't think there's ever been a time where I felt like motherhood and my business are like equally balanced. I think there's times where I did feel less overwhelmed and less stressed, and like I had a better handle of things, but I never felt like they were equally balanced. And so now I like to think of it like a juggle, or like a relay race where I'm designating times or days towards, my business, and then I'm designating and blocking out other times and making sure I'm able to be the primary caretaker of my daughter. And so I think it really is kind of like a relay race where I have one baton and I'm focusing on that, and I'm focusing on my business, or I'm focusing on making sure that my daughter is good, and then I pass the baton to someone else, and I'm able to really focus on what it is that I'm intentionally be there and be focused on what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. So I've learned a lot, and I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is being able to block off certain days and times for things, and being able to compartmentalize and separate the two, so that when I'm in work mode, I'm able to just switch that on and not feel as much mom guilt, because I think that's still something that I think I struggle with a little bit, but I definitely have minimized it to where I'm able to focus on my work and not feel bad about, oh, is my daughter missing me, or is she taken care of, or is this what's going on at home? I'm able to like be more focused. And then also on the flip side, when I'm home with my daughter, I'm able to be like present and really focus on her and give her my undivided attention, rather than feeling like guilty about what I'm not doing with my business. So
Oh no, I liked how Amanda said, like, it's more of a juggle rather than finding balance, because especially a person that works in the fashion industry, I have like a measuring tape all the time. So I know when I wrap that measuring tape around my neck, that's like my hat, right? Mm-hmm. That's like, okay, I'm focused. I know exactly what I'm going to do, and nothing else can get in the way. But also like because working from home also is kind of challenging, because you're like, okay, I'm working from home, but I'm also at home. So I've noticed that like if I get dressed just to sit at the desk, it's kind of like, okay, I'm here 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. So like nothing kind of gets in the way. But if I'm working in like sweatpants, I'm like, okay, I'm going to maybe spend an hour here, also do some dishes, clean up, take the dog for a walk, and I'm not as focused or productive. Mm-hmm. But I definitely found that, at least one item that you feel like that it's like symbolizes you working or you being a mom could probably help.
That's so good. I think for me, it was us getting an office space has helped me a lot, like create that division, because working from home is hard, and then there's always things to like distract you, right? And as a mom, being distracted, like, oh, my daughter's clothes needs to be washed, or I should be preparing something for whatever, her food, or things like that. So it's hard, but I think that's such a good tip to have, like visual reminders or something like physical to remind you that this is the hat you're wearing. This is what you should be focused on.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful and helpful in a way, because it helps you differentiate things. I think being in the pandemic, we were able to experience how like you can't differentiate anything when you're like at home all the time, but I think small things and practices like that can help. I know like for the majority of my first year of like college, it was really hard for me to be motivated to do any type of work, because everything was just remote. I was working for Johnny at home. I was doing school at home. Like I was still trying to do stuff for my business all at home. And I feel like not being able to differentiate those different tasks made it hard to want to focus on one thing. Like you were saying, like it's so easy to like just have sweatpants on and be like, okay, like maybe I'll do this like around this time, and then I'll go do this and do that. Like, so I think that's a very helpful tip too.
I agree. I think that's super powerful. Just kind of we're saying like working from home, and then I'm sure there's a lot of people that are working from home and have the kids and have all these other distractions. So I definitely I think that was really great. Thank you for that. Yeah. You also have a partner that is also an entrepreneur, and you guys work together. What is it like to have that relationship where you have that personal relationship and then you also have that work relationship together?
That, I think that part feels a lot more natural to me because me and my husband have been working together for so long, over a decade now. So, but I do remember, and I do like recall some of the beginning like years and the struggles we used to have, and I think it was very related to like not having clear like boundaries, expectations, like communication. Now I think those things are so those things are key to us like being able to work together and not drive each other crazy and not get things mixed from like our relationship and emotional things mixed with like, hey, this is the job that we're trying to do. So I think just having like extremely clear boundaries and having clear expectations of like even in our relationship, like every month we sit down and we talk about what kind of month are we gonna have, what are the goals for the month, what is this an intense month, is this like something has to give, right? If like for example this month Johnny let me know, he's like, hey, this month I'm gonna have like 12-hour days, like that's just what kind of month this is. And him giving me that expectation, I'm able to really prepare myself mentally and also prepare myself as far as like the type of support I need, the support that he's may not be able to give me and that I have to call on from my family or from outside of our relationship. And so I think those kind of things have helped us a lot, and just being able to like communicate very clearly and communicating clearly and often so that we're on the same page, like whether it comes to our home life or our work life.
What about like when you are at work? Like how do you differentiate between this is my partner, but it's also a person that I'm working with, like with other people as well? Like how do you guys manage that?
So I think for the longest time, well, we just actually got a team like recently, the past year. So we we didn't really have to do that until like very recently, but we have worked like in the workplace before, like for like not our own business. We have worked together in the past. So I think it kind of makes it easier because nobody knew we were dating. So we kind of had to act like we're not dating. So I think we carried that on like to our own business. Like we try not to like act like we're in a relationship. Everyone knows, obviously. But like I'm not like hugging on him, or I'm not like I don't know, like I don't bring our problems, from the outside world. I keep that very separate. Like if we are having a tougher day, like then there I can't bring that here. Like I really have to leave that at the door. And so I would say in the beginning, like I knew one of the boundaries that I had to put on myself, I couldn't share a office space with him. And it was because I couldn't respect his boundaries of like for example, he'd be at his computer and I'd be like, oh, I get so excited, like, because I guess I should give context, but we used to work out of our home, and we had a 2-bedroom home. So one of the bedrooms was our office, and we'd work together, and then one was, our bedroom. And so after a short period of time, I realized I could not work in the same bedroom as him because I distracted him too much, and he'd kind of like ignore me or something, and I'd get hurt. Where I'm like, why won't he pay attention to me? But it's because he's trying to work. Yeah. And so for the longest time, we just, after that, we're like, yeah, we can't share offices. Like, I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to distract you. And it's just not going to end well for us. So yeah, then when we created that boundary where I worked out of another space, he worked out of his space. Now we're able to come together and work out of the same office space. So now we share an office, but it is something where I already know, like, if he's at his computer, he's got his headphones on, I'm not gonna speak to him. Like, he's busy. Like, just act like he's not there. And if he does ignore me, I'm not gonna take it personal because I know he's in his zone, you know. And same thing with me. Now it's reflected back on me, where now he's kind of rubbed off on me, where sometimes he'll try to like show me something or tell me something, and I'm like, I'm working here. Like, I kind of ignore him now. So that's kind of the dynamic that we have going on now. It works.
So strong boundaries.
Strong boundaries.
Strong
Yeah.
boundaries.
What do you think, Stephennie? Because you've had experience working from home, right? With your boyfriend? With your partner?
My boyfriend and I just recently bought a house. 3-bedroom house. One is an office, and I gave him the garage. Well, okay. He picked the garage for his man cave. I didn't give it, but the garage would be nice. The garage would be nice, because it's much bigger, and it would be a great design studio, but then it's like hot and cold and not climate controlled. So I have an office upstairs, which is really nice, but I do know, like, I get super distracted in work. So it's like I kind of like close my door. I'll leave it open. But there are times where I'm so busy and I don't eat, so he'll like come into the room and drop off food, which is really nice. Yeah. But he knows not to really bother me. Once in a while, he'll come and give me a massage, back massage, because he knows like I'm stuck at the computer.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's
right?
so nice.
Yeah, like,
that's
no,
great.
he's been super supportive, especially on the days where I'm like, oh, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. I set like 7 alarms, so and I have to put it away from me so I can like physically get up, right? So I'm like, hey, just so you know, there's 4 alarms going off at 4 a.m. on your side of the bed. But I mean, it's never really been an issue. I think like
Is he a heavy sleeper?
No, which is and he still doesn't wake up with alarms, so it's like crazy. Yeah, he can hear everything else. Maybe he's just used to it.
Yeah.
But I do like how he supports me. Like when there are days where he noticed I skipped lunch or I didn't come down, he'll bring it up. He's tiptoed in a couple of meetings before in the back of the Zoom video calls. But no, I think like he knows that like once I'm in the zone, it's gonna take a lot to get back there. So not just let her work, you know. And he'll support me in the ways that he needs to, like bring me food or like, hey, Steph, you ready for the gym? Like, I do plan to go to the gym every day, pretty much. We go 5 days a week, and I stop working at 5:30. So that way, I noticed that like even working from home, you're working all the time. It's not just a 9 to 5. It's like 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9. So a good tip that I learned was, go to the gym, because then it will separate you. But also it gives you like the end of the day, like, okay, I'm done, my laptop's closed, get back to work. But working from home and then also working from home with a partner, we both have our own spaces. We worked together before. We lived in a loft before we moved into the house. The only thing I could say about that was like, I'm sorry, like if he's watching this, because I sew. So it's just like there's needles everywhere, there's like thread. The mess just grows, and that's like the hard part. I felt like was challenging, like because he would have threads like all over his feet walking around the house. But now that we have like a 3-bedroom house and we have designated office space, I think it works out great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really awesome, and I think it's beautiful how you guys are able to like incorporate being in a relationship and then also growing like your careers and your businesses at the same time, because they both take so much energy, right? So knowing how to manage those, and it seems like both of them are so supportive. So I think that's beautiful. And just to kind of keep on going on to what you were saying about you being in the corporate world, we would love to know, what is it like being a woman of color in the corporate world, and how have you overcome those challenges?
I think working in the corporate America has its challenges on its own, of course. Being a person of color, a woman of color specifically, you don't know when to have your own voice or find your own voice. And you also don't know when to say no or you can't do something, because you're always trying to live up to a fake expectation just to prove yourself, right? So while working in corporate America, I feel like for the longest I've been silent. And then the more I've actually opened up and talked, I was viewed differently. I got to be a leader for a ERG group, which was great, but I also got to make changes that happen in corporate America when it comes to inclusivity and diversity.
What are some of the challenges? Like, what are some of those challenges? What is it like being a strong woman in a space where, especially like a woman of color in a space where, like you can face a lot of challenges for you to grow? Like, what is that like? Like, what things have you overcome? That like tips that can help people that maybe they're like, oh, this is so difficult. They want to grow, but those challenges are so tough that they don't know how to break through them. Like, what tips would you give them?
As you mentioned earlier, like women have a lot of emotions, and when people are saying that you're emotional, it's kind of like a negative thing. But I noticed that my emotion actually turns to passion, and passion is actually what raises your voice, because passion comes out not only through how you're saying everything, but what you're doing. And I realized in corporate America, everyone is so corporate, it's so much the same, like everything is alike. A lot of people at work might dress the same or similar, you know. But that passion is what differentiates us.
Yeah, like what was it like finding your voice, and like what was that like, finding your voice in the corporate world?
I think finding your voice in a corporate America changes every day. Like some days you feel like your voice is heard. Some days you feel like your voice isn't heard. Sometimes you have to. I give myself pep talks. So that way, like, you know, I'm preparing for that meeting, or I know how I want to show up for people, and I know how I want to show up for myself to get my work done and for my work to come out authentic but also powerful. And just in corporate America, there's so many systems that kind of silences your voice, but not entirely. Like there's ways of doing your job functions, and then there's ways of being your own creative self, because I work in the fashion industry, so you have to bring creativity. And sometimes you have to get creative with how you present yourself. You know, like maybe I said something or I heard something that wasn't right, or I said something and it wasn't heard, you know. Then how can I show up in the way where I can be heard? Does that mean I might have to go above and beyond? Yes, but then I don't have to go above and beyond all the time, because now I'm recognized, which sometimes it's unfortunate that we have to really like go above and beyond to be recognized and to be heard. But once we're recognized and heard, you're able to allow other voices around you that are also similar to yours to be heard as well. I do know that it was challenging to be heard in the beginning, especially within my own team. But I noticed that like when I spoke forward and when I took a stand in a sense, more people came with it. You know, more voices were heard, more voices got louder, and now we all can be heard in a sense, and everyone feels more inclusive.
That's beautiful. It's like when you allow yourself the space to do something, you allow other people to do it as well. And I think that's a great example of what a leader is. Like a leader is someone that is really willing to do that and has like a vision and brings other people onto that vision as well. Which a lot of the time some people have a similar vision, but because you're over there leading it, they're like, yes, let me go ahead and do it. Like she did it. Now I feel safe to go ahead and do it too. So I think that's very beautiful that you've been able to do that and bring other people along with you as well.
It's definitely an experience.
Anybody else want to chime in on anything that she's saying?
I was called emotional, and I felt like oh my gosh, really, is that a bad thing? Because like a lot of the way I work actually is through my emotions. Like I know what I can do, what I can't do. I know the things I need to improve on and how I should show up. And I feel like that comes from inside, and that comes from your emotions. I understand the difference between showing your emotions too much and like, you know, having control over it. But sometimes like the greatest designs or the greatest ideas comes from when you're the most vulnerable. Like, you know, some like change happens when you're the most vulnerable, and also you get recognized even more because you're being your true authentic self. So
yeah, vulnerability is so powerful. Mm-hmm. It's so powerful, and I think it's something that's really frowned down upon, you know, because of the judgment that can come from it, or because of not being accepted, you know, or even this idea of like being too emotional, right? But there's a lot of power from vulnerability, just like you said, because look at all the change you've been able to make by allowing yourself first to be vulnerable, and which allows other people to be vulnerable too. So, and then even if you really look at it, like even when it comes to the things that help human beings connect with other human beings, it's normally emotion based. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, if it's there's no emotion there, like emotion helps us connect, right? So so I think that's beautiful that you've been able to chime into that, especially in a space where it may not be like super inclusive to do that, you know? So that's beautiful. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about for yourself?
While working in corporate America? Or?
Yeah, or just anything you want to touch on. Yeah, I think
you shared a lot of powerful stuff right now.
Yeah, I think you said great. Yeah, super great.
The shyness went away.
I was like, yes, it's out.
I don't know.
You're good?
For now, maybe.
Okay, cool. All right. And talking about like the strength that it requires for a woman to really get ahead, we have Christy, who has been juggling a lot of things at once, which is school and growing her business and working. So Christy, take it away.
I could definitely relate to Amanda earlier when she was saying, like, motherhood is nothing like anything that I've had to experience. Amanda's like amazing with everything that she does, and I feel like she carries herself so gracefully, but I can really relate in the sense of having to juggle so many things at once. You know, being a full-time college student. When I first started my business, I was still in high school. Like, I was fresh into my senior year, so at 17 I was trying to run a business, graduate high school, and now I'm moving into college where I'm a double major. I'm working here full-time with John. John's pretty much the only job I've ever really known. Like, I've probably only worked 2 other places. And yeah, even doing other things on the side, I feel like a lot of things get neglected by me not being able to properly like manage my time. Like, as far as school, like, maybe I don't give myself as much time to study for things because I'm working or I'm trying to figure stuff out with my business, or like I really enjoy doing pageants. So having all those things to do, like, they're all full-time jobs within themselves. So how do I navigate allowing them to coexist with each other? Or even like here with Johnny, sometimes like there's weeks where I'm a little bit more absent because I have other things to focus on. But I think that the important part with being such a young entrepreneur is having to figure out how are you gonna make it work for you in your life, and how are you gonna navigate that and own it.
That's awesome. How have you made it work for yourself?
She's like, I'm still trying to make it work.
Yeah, but you making it work. You making it work, you know? Like,
yeah, I definitely feel like I'm still trying to make it work. With the business side of things, I've definitely neglected it a lot. I remember when I first started it my senior year of high school, I was pretty consistent with it for like a month and a half. I was consistent with it for a month and a half, you know, not really posting on socials as much. And, you know, even when I wasn't posting, I was still like getting orders and like fulfilling them consistently. But I think that my business was affected negatively by me not being consistent with it and promoting it on social media as much as I should have. But I had that mindset where it's like, okay, like I'll get around to it like later. Like, a little background with my business, like why it, like I was really pushed to start it, was the school that I went to. Like, we did senior projects, and the program that I was in, I did like marketing and hospitality. So essentially, like, I made my business a real thing, but it was meant to be my senior project. So with that month that I went without being consistent with it, I was like, okay, like senior projects around like April, like I'll pick up around like February, because I have competition for like school and stuff like that. Like from October to like February, like I want to focus on competition, and then from February to like April and like forever after that, like I can fully invest myself in my business. But then COVID came along. COVID came along, and we didn't even have like senior projects. It was so funny because everybody, you know, procrastinating, like the week of senior projects came, and then COVID, like we didn't even go to school that week. So everybody was like, yes, like we got more time. And so me especially, I was like, okay, like I get more time. Like I wanted a whole diversity campaign for my brand, because a big thing that I wanted to focus on with like my cosmetics was how in makeup there's not a lot of diversity with models, with even like skin ranges and stuff like that. So that was my main focus for what I wanted my project to be. And I was like, okay, I haven't worked on a campaign for this like at all, and it's due next week. So I was excited for the extra time that came with that. And I was like, okay, this gives me time to like be more active on social and push myself out of that like little pit of like not working on anything at all. And again, probably only like was active on there for a month, and then I stopped again. And then with my 1 year like anniversary for like my business coming around, I was like, okay, like I need to like put more time to this, and if I don't push myself to do it now, like it's not ever gonna happen. So for the 1 year anniversary of my business, like I did start things up again, and I was active with it for a few months, but then I stopped around April of 2021, and it wasn't until like last week that I've been more consistent on it. But this time I don't plan on ghosting it again. I feel like you have to want to make it work. Like if you want something, it'll work, and if you give the time for it, like it'll work. So even if it's not as active like as I want to be, like maybe I'm not gonna post every day, but if I make it a goal to post like at least 3 times a week, then I think that that's something that I can manage, and in time I could be able to devote more time to it and really get it where I want it to be.
And you're also Gen Z.
Yeah.
Right? How has that been? Like, have you faced anything, or do you have any tips for any entrepreneurs that are Gen Z that are wanting to create a business or are already creating a business?
I think the biggest tip that I could give is to manage your money. I think that that could go well for anybody, whatever like walk of life you're in right now, is to really prioritize budgeting. Like I said, like I was a 17-year-old in high school when I started it, and I started with like a lot of inventory. Like I spent a lot of money for it, like practically like a lot of my checks at the time were like solely going towards that. And for me it worked because I was a high school student. Like I didn't have bills to pay or anything. So I think more than anything, like if you are somebody that has bills to pay or other obligations with money, like I think budgeting and setting timelines for yourself is going to be so important, because I knew like, okay, like if I want this to launch this day, I need to have everything ready by this day at least. And then if it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks to get to me, then I have to be ready to pay for it this day. So where am I going to give money to afford? Like maybe to get this inventory in stock, this specific item takes 3 weeks, but I know that this will only take 1 week to get to me. Let me prioritize getting the 3-week item out of the way, and then later on I can focus on giving more towards what I know is going to take less time for me. So I think planning, budgeting, and setting deadlines for yourself has been something that's really helped me and allowed me to get things done in the way that I wanted them to, because I've definitely struggled with the motivation side of, being consistent with my business, but I've never been able to not do something that I wanted to do because of like lack of money or like planning or anything. Like anything that I wanted to accomplish, I've always been able to through planning.
Have you had someone guide you through what that looks like, or you kind of figured it out on your own?
I'm a first-gen Latina, so I'm the first in my family to do a lot of things. So when it came to starting my business, like it was, like a lot of me figuring things out on my own, but having that important support from like my family. They may not have like been able to give me knowledge because again, I was the first to do it, so it was something that they were like unaware of, but they definitely gave me the support that they could. So I did struggle a lot with learning how to do things, just because obviously like when you're the first to do it, like you don't know, like you have no choice but to figure it out on your own. But like there's a lot of things that are like resourceful. Like I feel like if you make the time to learn and you're open to learning, then it's gonna end up working out for you.
I'm also a first gen. Are you guys the first in your family to do anything as a woman? Period, is anything? Are you?
I think for me, pursuing both motherhood and growing a business at the same time is a first. That's unheard of in my family, and I think, like Chrissy said, it's hard when you don't have an example, but you have to like keep your vision in mind. Like what's the vision that you have for your future, and what it is that you want to do. And if you don't have the example, you need to find an example. You need to find people. And now it's much easier because we have social media. We can find people that we can call on, or not call on, but see, and be a part of their journey and be inspired by. I think one thing I was going to say about what Chrissy was talking about was to really find people that are on a similar path, or that you can relate to, that are trying to do something similar, and be open with them, and kind of find people that you can talk to about these things, and kind of air out some of these dreams or goals or visions that you have, setting deadlines and plans, and then holding each other accountable. And it doesn't have to be something like very structured, or like, oh, I'm gonna call you on this day, or it can be something as simple as like, oh, let me just check in on this person, how's that going, or I know you wanted to do this, like, have you started it, or something simple simple reminders, and just having that like community, building that community of people, like-minded people, is going to help you so much.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Accountability for me in my life has been so helpful, like whether it be through my coach, whether it be through certain friends that we're working on, we both have a vision that we're working on something, having someone to say, hey, like, I know you want to get this forward, following up with a certain amount of time and saying, how are you doing with this thing? And then knowing that you're going to meet with that person and that you're going to say how it's going. Mm-hmm. It's so powerful, because if not, then it's so easy to get wrapped into all the other things you want to do, or get wrapped into like even your doubts and fears, or just not keeping up that momentum. Mm-hmm. And I really think that like growing in community, or even like this, like sharing, helps us kind of fuel up and then stay on that path, and mm-hmm. constantly being around it like keeps you on this path to really moving forward, so I definitely agree.
And things that require you to show up in that way, like me, when I booked that market, for me to set up my booth for my brand, it was like I had to embody that, not only the day of, but mm-hmm. weeks leading up to it, because I'm preparing, I'm making sure I get inventory, I'm making sure I get my display going. Like it was holding me accountable just by having that deadline of like, this is the show day. Mm-hmm. I gotta show up, and it took weeks of preparation to be able to show up.
Yeah, and you did a really great job at preparing for that too. Like really
Thank you.
Knowing what are the things that you have to work on for yourself leading up to that, like really being aware of like, this is what I need to work on, mm-hmm. and then constantly working on it, instead of being like, oh, the day's here, like, oh, I should have done all these things, I didn't. Like really holding yourself accountable while having mm-hmm. other people to hold you accountable, mm-hmm. and really being like drawn to that vision and identifying what you need to do to make that happen, and doing that, so you did a really great job at that.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about you? Like, have you had experiences where accountability has helped you move forward?
I live off of like to-do list.
Yeah.
I probably have like 7 different books, and I write it out. It has to look the neatest. It has to look the clearest. I probably write it out like 10 times at least, like one list. And then I have to cross it off. That's the only way I could stay on top of just a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Schedules always get conflicted one way or another, but if you don't know where you missed, or what you messed up on, or what you have to get back to, or where you left off, I think, then you're going to spend even more time trying to figure that part out. So mm-hmm. I definitely have excellent organizational skills because of it. Sometimes when things like throw off my schedule, I look at it this way: we don't make mistakes, we make adjustments, right? Mm-hmm. So life is about making all those adjustments, because you have to live, so you're gonna make mistakes. Mm-hmm. So instead of seeing it as a mistake, just see it as an adjustment. And in order for you to see that in order for you to see it, you have to my brain works, but I have to physically see something. Mm-hmm. Like if I did something, worked on a project, and I didn't meet a deadline, I want to know what happened. Okay, well, yesterday I had like 30 things on my list, and I went in order of priority. So then I can't really dread on it. I could just move forward. It's easy to move forward when you can see where you left off and how to pick yourself back up instead of starting from ground zero all over again. But I definitely think being organized, writing your list out works for me, so it might work for other people. But I also have to juggle a lot of things. So in order for me to know what I'm doing, that's like the best way that I've seen work for me.
I love that.
I have a lot of lists. I buy like a notebook every day, like every week, once a week at least.
I have hella notebooks too.
Yeah.
I love like what you said, knowing where to pick back up, because I
That's
think
like the hardest part in life.
that's the hardest part, and like knowing, yeah, because the hardest part is like how to get started. So if you know, like when you mess up or when you come across a struggle or like something that feels like a mistake, just knowing where to start again, that's how much quicker you're gonna get like back in the game. So
yeah,
helpful.
you don't have to start from the beginning.
Exactly. And I would even add, like, when it comes to the to-do list, at least something that I noticed that I would do a lot before would be that I would be like, I want to do all these things, you know, I want to do all this. So I'd be like, pack my to-do list of like all the things that I want to do and being like, yeah, I can do them all. Like, I'm so badass. And then really realizing that I was putting too much on my list, which was setting me up for failure, right? So really identifying kind of like what you said, like what's priority, you know, and then how do these priorities form part of your overall vision and your overall goal? Because then it's so easy, at least for me, that I'm like very multi-passionate to be like, oh, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then still do that, but within a lot of goals, right? So then really identifying like what's the main vision that I'm really looking forward, looking to accomplish, and then what are the steps that I need to take in order for me to do that, being realistic with my time, and then also adding in my lifestyle, like adding in living too, adding in being, adding in doing things that are going to fuel me to make sure that I'm in a good space to be able to keep on accomplishing those things. Because I also grew up as I am first gen, and as a first gen, like I was always doing a whole bunch of things like at the same time to try to be that person to really make it happen, you know. And what happened is I just get really, really burnt out. So knowing like what is my capacity and how can I make a list of priorities within my capacity, with like a clear vision in mind has really helped me, just to kind of add on to what you've said before.
Yeah, it's a lot to balance sometimes, especially when you're trying to make a significant difference and improve generational wealth. You know, when my boyfriend and I bought a house, we're like the first in our family to do it. So we didn't know what the hell we were doing. But thank God, like my boyfriend, you know, he studied real estate and everything. So when we got a lot of the paperwork, we kind of had some type of idea, but even still, like the experience, we didn't have many people to look up to do it. So it was like, you know, you live, you learn, and you do it again. So we're gonna look for another property, you know. But
yes, get that second, that third, get it.
But I definitely think like the support system is very key. You might not have family members or friend circles that have done it before. But sometimes just listening, you know, like my sister, she randomly came up with an idea, and I know, like, you know, I had a lot to do, and I didn't really want to spend that much time on the phone talking to her because I had a work schedule. But I know that's how I am. When I have an idea, the way my brain works, I'm just like, oh my God, guess what? This is what I'm thinking, you know, and I just ramble on and keep going. But I do know like a great way to support, even if you don't know how to, is just to listen. Like, because then that person's really, like myself, is just talking out the idea, like my sister, you know, she's just talking out the idea and she's taking it in. So being able to talk to somebody out loud and communicate that to her, she's able to, like, you know, believe in herself more. And that's a support we really need. It's like, can I do this? And that's why we go to people, because we want to verify that we can do it. And sometimes the only way to do it is alone, but you don't have to fully be alone to actually succeed. You just, you know, have to be motivated.
And then even in those moments where we may lose motivation, you know, because motivation really comes and goes. So the moments when we lose that, leaning on those people, like personally, I've had great people that when I'm going through hard times, they remind me, like, Idania, look at all the things that you do. Like, you are badass. You are going to do it no matter what. And it kind of like reminds me when I kind of lose sight of that within myself, because I can get into a situation that's happening. So I definitely think that leaning on support is helpful to help ignite that motivation and to keep you on track. And
help you recognize yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Help you recognize yourself and help you work on the things that you maybe need to work on in order to continue to keep on going, you know?
Absolutely.
I think so many times we're our biggest critic, right? And we need those.
The only time. The only critic we're working on.
And we have such, like, I mean, I think I speak for myself, but I have people that really support me, and I have people that really like want me to win, and they know like my power, and they'll remind me when I need it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like community and support is so important, like with anything that you're doing, but especially like with entrepreneurship, because you're taking that risk to focus or do whatever that you're doing. Like it's like how I was saying earlier, like maybe you don't have anybody to show you the way, but if they give you that support, like that's all the like if that's all the help that they can give, that's more than enough. Like it helps in pushing you to keep going and what you want to do. And I think community is so important in being able to like teach one another and learn from each other. I know that being younger and being in school, starting my business, it had a lot of other people reach out to me while I was doing it to like ask for help. Like maybe it was something that they had already wanted to do, but they were scared, and then seeing somebody else do it, it kind of helped show them like, yeah, I can do it too. So I think that that's something nice, knowing that you can help people and what they need. And I think helping people helps us too. Like it gives us that motivation, and it shows us like, you know what, like maybe I am on the right path.
Yeah. Speaking of paths, I think there's a difference between being a leader and a trailblazer. So leaders, they'll lead the way, you know, and sometimes leading the way, you're the only person on that path. But a trailblazer they leave the trail behind, so that way everyone can follow that trail to get to where they're at. So if you are struggling or if you need support, your friends can remind you of who you are, but we're also on the same path of like, you know, finding ourselves in the side hustle or starting a company. Like one way or another, we're actually paving a path together. Instead of all just being leaders, we bring trailblazers, so that way you actually build that generational wealth. There is a way you can write the rule book of how you did it and influence others to do it as well.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And then kind of tying it back into the main focus of the video, which is women entrepreneurs, right? Like as women, again, like we have that strength of being able to connect with human beings on a deeper emotional level, and that's so necessary in order to support each other, in order to be able to be there for that other person, in order to remind that person, and in order to, because we do that for other people, receive that as well, so that we can continue moving forward. So I think that's definitely like a strength that us women should really like hold on to, you know, and really use and really practice to be able to give that space to other women and to grow our businesses, and overall just like be trailblazers and leaders at the same time, and then also building that for the future generations to come. So as women entrepreneurs, or even women in the corporate space, we work with men a lot of the time, right? And either whether it be brand collaborations, whether it be working on a project together, whether it be having a boss that is a man, I'm really curious to know, what qualities do you like in a man when it comes to having them be a leader or a collaborator, and what qualities do you dislike?
So I know that men are very competitive, super competitive, and women can be too, but I think I always want to feel like I'm on the same team with people, and so like we could be competing, but we're going towards the same goal, right? Or I like to feel like it's more of a collaboration, but that's me personally. How about you guys?
I had a great male boss. I wouldn't even see him as a boss. I'd see him more as a colleague, a friend. I think we definitely have our boundaries of like, we definitely had our boundaries around like, you know, level wise, but he always saw me as, you know, as just like same level as him. Like, and I think that's what helped our communication. We were always about what's best for the team. You know, if there were days where I couldn't show for my best for the team, then he recognized it and he allowed me that space. Of course, a lot of other bosses aren't going to do that. But I think also because we're coming out of a pandemic, there's a lot of things going on at the same time that we have to take in. So my old boss, he was very transparent. He was also very accepting. And he actually fought a lot of, he fought for me for a lot of things to make happen. And I think that's what really matters in a leader, because the way you partner, or the way you are managing the team, you have to make sure like everyone feels like they're there, they're not just working, they're still humans. especially in the day that we live in. And I feel like he was very open to, you know, making adjustments if we needed to, or if it's feedback that he's giving me, it was more for growth. Not even, like, you know, people say, oh, it's constructive criticism, but it's still criticism. The way he approached everything, or how we communicated, it was more about growth. I've always, especially working in corporate America, you think that you have to start at the bottom of the ladder, which typically you do. But you don't want to stay in a company for years, because millennials don't do that. Gen Zs are definitely not going to do that. Maybe, actually, they might start, but millennials don't do that. So even though we're working in a corporate setting, he was always able to help me grow, you know, whether it's personally or for the business, or just professionally, whether it's anywhere in my career path. And I think that's what makes a great boss, because you're not just seeing what their future is in the company, you're seeing what their future is in their life, you know. And I think that when you can separate the two, but also align the both, you know, you're only being set for success and also a great partnership in the future. Because there are people nowadays that are younger and they're bosses, you know, they manage older people. So it's just like, how do you communicate that way? But it's really not about like age or anything these days. So you really want to make sure that communication, the partnership is key.
I have to watch what I say because Johnny's sitting right here.
Johnny, leave the room.
No, but I am younger, so I haven't like had too many experiences with working different jobs, and I feel like even for my age, I've worked. My first job ever was like a paid internship, and it was like at an office space where they focused on like unemployment. Like they tried to help people like get employed, or people that were like facing homelessness. And you know, that was like the first thing I've ever done. I was 15. I feel like I've worked a lot of different jobs, but I don't know how to explain it. Like I feel like I've been put in environments with older people since I was young, wherever it is that I've worked. And so that's pretty much the only other place that I've worked other than like with Johnny. And I'd say that in my experiences with work, again, with like men being like my boss or being around so many like people that are like older, I feel like I've definitely gotten very lucky with my experiences. I can relate to how you were saying, like you're put in a position where like your leaders, they don't look for criticism, they look for opportunities of growth. And I feel like that's helped me grow as not only like somebody who's young, but like as an entrepreneur, and like with mindset is not focusing on like the negative of things, but having those leaders that are there that are gonna, you know, kind of tell you like what you're doing wrong, but help you get to a point where you can grow and do better and stuff like that. So unfortunately, Johnny's not gonna get canceled. He's amazing. But yeah, I'm very lucky. Me and Amanda were here dominated at the office with guys. It's just us two, but the workplace that we have, I feel like, is amazing. Like none of the guys here have ever made me feel any less.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I can definitely relate with what you guys have said in terms of having leaders that want you to grow. And you know when there's a difference. You know, you just feel the energy when it's someone that's really just trying to like dominate and lead and tell you what to do. Like my background is in journalism. I started off as a news reporter. So, and then I was in the border. Then I went to international. So working with different types of cultures, working with different types of people in different environments. And I've definitely had the extremes of both, which is I had one boss at the time that was extremely degrading. It was extremely like this is my show, and would like cuss at you and pressure you and just like really like put you down. And there never came a time where me personally, I felt comfortable enough to be able to even share anything of like, ooh, I'm thinking about this or thinking about that. You know, it's like you get here, you do your job, you do what you have to do. If you don't do it well or you mess up, like cuss at you in front of everybody. Like very, you know, very intense. And the TV news industry is very cutthroat. It's very intense. And it's not uncommon to hear situations where there are news directors that are not great leaders, you know. And then I've been in a space where I had one leader, it felt like I could go to that person and really share where I was at, not like personal at home, but like where I'm at personally with the job that I'm doing, you know? And when he allowed me the space to just really be and allowed to just have personal conversation and allowed to really get to know me, and I got to get to know him. And because that, we were able to work together. We were able to identify each other's strengths and each other's opportunities for us to support each other. And I look for that when it comes to collaborating too. Like what opportunities do I have where someone can kind of more like what strengths does that person have and maybe that I'm lacking on, and then vice versa. And that's how we can really be a really great team, because we're supporting each other. We're adding onto each other's strengths. And when it comes to weaknesses, it's not like I'm taking advantage of your weakness, so I'm putting you down for your weakness. It's like, let's support each other. Let's help you work through this. And I'll kind of give my part and you'll give your part, and then we'll work together. And those are the collaborations, whether it be because now I do like video production and I have people that work on my team for projects that I do. The people that I work with, I look for that. Number one, the energy. Like, do we naturally click? Like, do we naturally just flow? And does it feel safe for us to really grow and share ideas and share the craziest ideas and still be able to come up with something together? Like, that's when it just feels awesome, when you can just really be yourself, you know? And then when it comes to the energies, feminine and masculine energy, you know, we all have both. We all have both feminine energy and we both have masculine energy. Men and women we both have it. So knowing how to tune into those energies and knowing how to compensate for each other's energies, you know, like I know that personally I have a lot of masculine energy. I have like a lot of intense energy, and I've learned to accept that and love that, you know, and being able to work with people where I can freely be that without being like, you're too much, you know, but also me knowing how to manage it and knowing when to bring my masculine and knowing when to bring out my feminine, you know, knowing when to be like, this is my moment to listen. This is my moment to kind of be there for that person. This is my moment to just be. And when is it my moment to really act? When is it my moment to like have this other kind of energy that's more action based, you know, and being able to freely be that with whoever I'm collaborating with or even the people that I'm working with is super important, so that we can thrive instead of like trying to put each other down for whatever reason, you know. I would love to know if you've experienced anything like that where you learn how to manage your energy with people, with men.
Well, I think it's hard for me because I haven't really. I'm trying to recall some like experiences that I've had as like from bosses but I think the biggest collaboration that's still ongoing is with my husband, and everybody here in the office being mostly males. I'm trying to think if I feel like I don't know if I have anything to say on,
or maybe just like what qualities do you look for like when you collaborate with your business?
It's hard when I think women are harder. Women bosses are harder.
Like you feel like they're more intense?
Yeah. You know, because they paved their way to get to the top of the ladder. So some kind of use it against you. And it's like they made their way to the top. But sometimes I feel like sometimes it's hard to recognize when they're allowing you to get to the top with them, you know? I had a boss before who was just like, oh, we pay you to know these things. And I was like, okay, well, you need to pay me more if you want me to learn them. Like, so it's just like, that's a great answer. Like, so it's just like you know, we worked so hard to get to where we're at in our career, but I mean, I don't stop learning. I don't stop growing. So I'm not going to expect to start a job and know how everything is. And working in different corporate American companies, they really don't have a system put in place and like this is the way you do things. Like there's no processes. There's processes to get you into the company, but not how the team works sometimes. And you build that, which is good, but sometimes it's like you don't know where to start. So I found that like, you know, some bosses were a little like, oh, well, you paid to be here, so figure it out, or rather than, oh, here's what you need to set you up to succeed. You know, I think all I'm asking is if you guys want me to succeed here, how can I show up that? Like, I don't want to have to go through all these obstacles or make all these mistakes. If somebody was here before me doing it, then we shouldn't have to do that. You know, there should be something in paper that's like, this is the way we do things here. And then you find your own way of tweaking it, you know? But I was fortunate enough to like have a lot of great bosses. I have had like very strict bosses, you know, like the one that says we pay you enough to be we pay you to be here. She was actually an amazing boss, and it was a girl. She was an amazing boss, and we're actually really good friends to this day. So I learned how her mentality worked, you know, like in order for me to actually know where I'm going to fit in into this industry, especially the fashion industry, there's so many different voices. I had to find my own way. There was just a little different way she could have said it, you know, that was the only thing, because I went home crying a lot. But I mean, like, I did find my way of working, and that's why we still have like a great relationship, because she knows I know what I know what to do. She knows what I like. You know, if I don't know what to do, I'm gonna figure it out. And I think that the way that she had said that to me could have been a little different, but also I probably would have never took it as personal if she wasn't so cutthroat. You know, and I probably wouldn't have like pushed myself harder to actually be that person I'm supposed to be and actually find where I am. You know, I think when you start a new job, especially in a corporate America, you're expecting how to do, you know, be told how to do the things and then bring your knowledge. But sometimes in corporate America, especially in the fashion industry, you actually just have to show up creatively. Did I say that right? Creatively. And then, you know, make it your own. Like, fashion industry is so collaborative, and a lot of companies, a lot of brands wouldn't be designing what they design with one mindset. So that's what made the difference.
I think, yeah, that's definitely like our glue in working with people's energy, but also like trying to allow people to have like the freedom to just show up creatively, even if it is unrealistic or like we could never, it's the craziest idea, like just having that freedom or feeling that
Safeness.
Yeah, the
Safety.
safeness and space to be able to like just throw it out there, and that nothing's like too crazy to like bring up. And so I think yeah, within my own brand, just I focus on working with women because that's who the brand supports, and that's who has been our main audience. So I think that comes naturally. I feel like energies just click with women a lot of the times, where it's easy to understand each other, it's easy to be vulnerable, but also like it's easy to be empathetic to each other, but also like hold each other to what it is that we say that we want to do, and be on the same team towards working towards a goal. Yeah.
I agree 100%.
So it definitely makes it easier with women, and then men come in and they have their place too. Like they really do add. I think like having the male energy, it definitely brings a different dynamic that I feel like is needed too. And I think when we're aware of each other and we're aware of our strengths and our weaknesses, that's when we can come together and really like make like a dream team, you know?
I agree 100%. So you mentioned a really good point, which is working with very strong women leaders. So what has been your guys' experience working with really strong women leaders, if you have had any? And what do you look for when wanting to collaborate or work with another strong woman?
You guys all look at me. You ever had a female boss?
No.
Oh my.
I can kind of female boss. I mean, I can think of like women leaders that I work with. Okay, all good. So personally, I've worked with women leaders that have very strong personalities, and I think it goes to getting to the space where you feel safe with them, you know, and then them allowing the space for us to feel safe with each other, you know, because personally I know that I have a really strong personality too. So strong personality, like it can clash, but I think it all depends with the perspective that you're looking at it. Like for example, like I have a coach. She's very strong leader. I love that because I see it as an example to follow. Like I want to be like that, you know? But I have had situations with other people where it becomes so strong that for me it doesn't work. Like for me, when especially like if I'm going through a moment where I'm being really, really hard on myself and that's what's stopping me from growing, someone coming in, especially a female role, and being really hard on me is not going to work because I'm already so hard on myself. At that moment, I need nurture. At that moment, I need someone to like guide the way with like care, you know, instead of being like super, super hard. And I think as women, because we have both of these energies, I think it's knowing when to tap into a certain type and what does that person need in order to know how to serve that person better. And then also knowing yourself of like, what do you really need at that moment, and knowing how to communicate that with the people that you're working with so that they learn about you and they know how to serve you better as well. So that's kind of been my experience, where they have been like super hard and I'm like, it just shuts me off because I'm already really hard on myself. But I've had also people that over time they've learned, and I've learned too, and we've been able to communicate, and then through that moment we just grow so much stronger, and it becomes like this power force of us together as women, you know. So that's been my experience so far.
I think you have to recognize what that person's intentions are.
That's
you
true.
know Sometimes female leaders, they worked hard to get to where they're at. That doesn't mean they're going to bring you there, you know. But then there are some that it's like, I want you to work on this because this is what I worked on to get to where I'm at. So I've had a boss, a female boss before, and this is around the diversity and inclusion factor, where she was just like, I've had a lot of obstacles that I had to go through, and I had to go through a lot of microaggressions to get to until I got to where I'm at. Okay, but now you're a leader, so why does anyone in your team have to go through that? Do you know? So it's just like, then there's also like, or it's like, if you were to be actually like an inclusive leader, you would make sure you wouldn't allow anyone to have to go through that because you've already done it. You'd be able to recognize those signs. So instead of using the past experience as something to relate to, use it as something to build your team to. You know, you don't have to be a diverse team to have a diverse mindset, or to recognize when you need to be more inclusive, or to recognize when there are microaggressions going on in the workplace, or how somebody could feel out of place, or when you need to step in and manage the team to be a team. So I think like there's a lot of powerful women that are leaders in the fashion industry, but I don't know, like it's hard to recognize the ones that want to lead everyone else with them. You know, sometimes you recognize it and then you get there and notice, or you understand that person and you're like, okay, I can put them in this bucket. You know, they're only willing to tell me so much, or they're willing to relate to me, but not to help me grow. Or they're willing to, some women are willing to teach you and bring you to the top. I feel like a lot of women want to do that. Some not in the corporate America, but like girlfriends, like, you know, I have a lot of girlfriends who have their own companies, who are lawyers for big top companies. And we might not be able to have the same educated conversation because some of my friends are lawyers and I'm in fashion, or, you know, so, but we can still relate into terms of how we can actually make a difference, or build and grow from a stereotype that America puts on you as a person of color working. So it's like, you have people that are great leaders, they might not be bosses, and then you have bosses that are leaders who might not be great leaders. I said that wrong. Bosses, yeah. Right. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
But so it's just like, a person might be a director title, or a person might have a senior manager level, but they're not a leader, you know? But then there's bosses who are, yeah, no, I don't know where I was going.
There are bosses that aren't leaders, and then there are leaders that aren't bosses.
Yeah, there
like
you go.
They're not
Very quick,
there
yeah.
you go. But they carry the people with them.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the boss doesn't lead the team leads the boss. Because the boss is the one that has to step in when something's going wrong. You know, the team is bringing, like the team is leading as a whole up the ladder to succeed because they're the ones putting in the actual work. So what makes a great boss is how you lead. And the thing is, you can lead without being a boss, and that's how people are recognized for what they do. I think it's harder when you're a boss and you're a poor leader, you know, because then you have your team struggling, you have people on your team not recognizing their own talents, and how can they show up the best for you? So, and I work a lot in corporate America, so it happens normal, and I hear it a lot, and a lot of my colleagues or past colleagues or friends have gone through it before. So it's always like, how do we work through this? How do you know, not take it so personal? And that's like the biggest thing in corporate America. They say not to take anything personal. And that's hard because I'm in the creative field. You know, if I'm not going to take this, if I can't be myself at work, how can I work for you guys? So it's just like, not to take something personal is ask me to not work. You know, it's just like, in order for me to actually be successful at this job, I have to take the way I work personal because you guys want me to come up creatively for the team. So I think that's like the hardest part of balancing corporate America and also being in the creative field of corporate America, because you want to be creative and be authentic, but you can't take things personal. So I think a great leader doesn't have to be a boss, because, you know, it might be something your boss said and then someone on your team, that's not you. Don't worry about it. You can get through the day. You can design better than that. Don't listen to what they're saying, or, you know, they help you recognize it, and they're leading you to who you're supposed to be in that place. So.
And I think that goes into like the even in entrepreneurship, you know, with like the people that you're collaborating with, for example, being able to, again, like kind of have that safe space with that person of, hey, like I kind of took this personal, or I don't feel like my creativity is being acknowledged, or whatever it may be, being able to feel safe and speak about that, and then being able to feel supported to keep on moving forward with your team. You know, I think it's very interesting when you are the lead, like the entrepreneur that is like leading a team, you know, because in that situation, then you go through a lot, at least personally, a lot of things alone, like a lot of things that you have to go through alone because you're the leader and you want to, you know, like lead the team. But when you're facing your own thing, then that's where leaning on support, like a coach, for example, like having my coach has been so helpful, because I can share all my doubts and fears and the things that are like I need to work through with her, and she's holding that container for me, so that through that experience of me growing, I can help my team grow as well, you know. So I think when it comes to leadership, self-leading too, especially as an entrepreneur, knowing how to lead yourself through those times, and then knowing when to lean on other people, so that through that collaboration you can lead others, is also very, very important. That has helped me too.
Yeah, like how come men can't be perceived as bossy, but women are? Like bossy connects to emotion, you know, like that's like, oh, she's being bossy. You're thinking I'm in my emotions right now, or I'm in my feelings, and what is it? Like if I can tell you to do your job effectively, why are you taking it so personal? Like why do I have to be called a name, or, you know?
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say that I think bossy is like the nice version of the real word that's used.
Yeah, I thought Cody was gonna say that.
Right? Like, yeah. I was gonna say.
I was waiting for it. Yeah, I was kind of waiting.
Okay, PG-13, right?
Yeah. I have definitely been in spaces where I'm the only woman and I'm leading. I've been in spaces where it's like a very male-dominated energy, like very, you know, where like I went into the space and it's like, has a woman been in here like in the last couple of hours, in the last couple of days? Because you just kind of turn around and you're like, there's this energy in here, you know? And then it's like, okay, like I have to really, you know, be in my position and know that, and not tune into those energies that could easily kind of make me start doubting myself, or no, like I know what I'm doing. I know that this is why I'm doing it. And then, at least for me personally, like having someone to go to genuinely say, like, am I going through with this too aggressive, where it's not allowing it to be transmitted to the other person, you know? And or can I go about this effectively in a different way, and genuinely being like, yes, no, you know, and knowing how to manage that and trusting that within myself. And then when I'm in those spaces where I have those, you know, that energy that kind of wants to like I'm pretty sure they could say that, you know, like you're bossy or you're this or you're being this, you know. It's like, okay, like at the end of the day, you were just not raised, you know, knowing how to really respect the leadership of a woman. You know, I'm pretty sure you were raised with a certain culture, machismo culture maybe for Latinos, like you were raised with a certain culture, and at least for me, just knowing how to stick with that. And it can be very difficult because it can cause you to really doubt yourself, you know. But I would just really encourage to just really stick with that, and again, like, know how to manage your feminine and masculine energy and know when.
Would you call a male bossy though?
Yeah, I don't think I would call him
exactly.
bossy.
It pertains
I'd say,
to
I mean, I would.
gender.
Yeah, no, it does for sure. I mean, I don't really use the word bossy. Period. I would say, like, you know what I mean. Like,
I would say like
I would say.
What was the word? I thought of it too. Like, because I mean, I work with many people on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's the terminology that I've used instead of bossy?
Yeah.
Assertive. I don't know.
I feel like I understand what you're saying though. Like, a man, like, he could be a boss, but like nobody, even if he's like probably not leading necessarily in like a good manner, like nobody's gonna say like, oh, like he's being bossy or mean it in the way that they would when they see a woman leading. And I feel like it was kind of like what Cody was asking. He was like, does society need to change? But
society needs to change.
I think what it is, it's like probably like societal standards. Like, it's always been catered that like men are leaders. Like, it's like just a world for like men where like they're prioritized, I feel like, or what they say goes. So I think as times are changing and like women are slowly becoming like leaders or stepping more into like the spotlight of being leaders or holding like positions or doing things that only people are used to like seeing men doing, they don't know how to like, I guess, handle it or see it. Like, it gets so easily seen as like, oh, like she's being bossy because, you know, you're not used to like having women leaders. So to you, like, you think that she's probably speaking out of place, but she's just being a leader.
Yeah, speaking out of place.
Or being a boss.
or being a boss, like stepping into her boss energy, you know. It's really interesting. Like, I've traveled a lot throughout Latin America, like doing work. I was sent abroad for 6 months to meet people, meet entrepreneurs, and do stories on them. And I've done documentaries abroad too. And it's so interesting because depending on the country too in Latin America, like Mexico, for example, it's very machista, right? Like the male dominates, like really. But if you really go into the household, and then if you go into households even in other countries, the woman is the one that runs the show at the home.
I was going to say that too.
You know what I mean? Like, really, the woman really runs the show. And this is just my personal opinion, I really think that a lot of the times this kind of idea of like trying to put women down, I think it's because you know how powerful the woman really is and the power that she really holds, and being threatened by that. I don't know if I want to put that in there or not, but it's kind of like a little opinion. But I have noticed that when I travel, at least, like women really lead the household. They lead in a lot of spaces. So it's so interesting. So it's like when you go in other areas, like the work environment, for example, why is that like one of the main areas where a woman cannot be known as, can be seen as a leader? You know, like I have really noticed that. But kind of adding on to what you have saying, I do think that now it's starting to shift, and now I am seeing more support from men being like, hell yeah, I get it, you know, like you're leading, do it, you know. But I think it's gonna take some time for like collectively to really have that shift. So I think it just depends on the people that you're really around, and having them really accept you, and educating each other to get to that point where there's that mutual respect, and you start letting go of that. She's bossy, and really she's stepping into her boss energy, or she's leading.
Yeah, women are bosses too, and I feel like for the longest time, like, strong women intimidated or like scared men. But it's like how you were saying, like, I feel like men are slowly starting to join in on that empowerment. Like, it's not just women uplifting women, it's also like men realizing, you know what, like, it doesn't have to be like us against each other. Like, together we can accomplish great things. And I think that that's so important for people to be more open to the idea that, you know, us women, like, we're powerful, and together, like, working together, like, we can all accomplish a lot of greater things.
Yeah, I mean, we well, not now with technology, you know, but originally needed each other to create life, which is, I think, is like one of the biggest types of way to create. which is another human being. Obviously now there's technology and there's a lot of changes, but just to even show like what power can we create when we collaborate together, right?
We already create together. Let's just go beyond that. Let's create businesses together. Like, let's create powerful like workplaces and stuff like that.
I agree. Beautiful energy, ladies. Thank you so much for your time. You all gave really beautiful gems, and I would love to know where everyone can find you.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, go ahead and start. So, quick recap. My name is Idania Ramirez. I'm a life coach and own a marketing agency, and you can find me on my website, idaniaramirez.com, or on my social media handles, idania.ramirez.
My name's Amanda Love Santos. I also have a YouTube channel here that focuses on crochet tutorials as well as small business tips. I have a business and brand called Stay Creating, where we support women makers through fiber arts goods, through education, through finished products. So you can find our website at staycreating.co, and you can find us on Instagram as well.
Again, my name is Stephennie Factor. You can find me on IG at Stephennie Factor.
And I'm Christy Banda. You can find me on IG at Christy Banda with 2 A's. And if you are interested in handmade cosmetics or want to buy some for a loved one, you can go to at Placeit Beauty on Instagram or shop my website at placeibeauty.com.
As a boss, father, and a friend, the information that these women shared was crucial to me understanding the dynamics of women in the workplace. So whether you're thinking about doing business with your spouse or just hiring on some talented creative people, you need to understand that everyone brings a different level of energy, and ultimately, we need to understand one another in order to accomplish the goals ahead. So if you're looking to scale your business this year, there's an important lesson that you need to master. And in the video right down below, we share that tip in order for you to have massive success this year. Check it out right now, and we'll see you guys there.